Hello and welcome to another edition of Currently in Quincy. I'm Joe Catalano, and on today's program we get an update from Tom Clasby from the Quincy Council on Aging. First, though, we take a look at the weather and the news for you. Currently in Quincy, it's kind of gray and damp out there, 55 degrees right now with off and on drizzle, mist, and showers throughout the day today. Highs only in the lower 60s, another damp night. Tonight, temperatures will dip off into the mid-50s. Really unsettled for the rest of this week with the chance of showers every day. I think tomorrow maybe be about the best day because it'll be warmer with highs in the mid-70s, but still a spot shower around in the afternoon. Cloudy on Wednesday, cool, upper 60s, and a pretty good chance for some afternoon showers here on Thursday with highs in the low 60s. Still unsettled on Friday. Right now, though, next weekend looks really nice. So we'll get through this week with some showers. Again, 55 in Quincy right now. Checking out news for you today, the construction of the new Quincy Animal Shelter off of Quarry Street recently hit a snag when workers discovered a small amount of asbestos at that site. Quincy Public Buildings Commissioner Paul Hines told the City Council last week that the contamination set the project back and increased the costs. However, he said it could have been much worse.
So we have been delayed since January from that find. We just last Thursday got the go-ahead to begin the removal of those soils, relocating on site and capping it in the area of existing landfill and cap. So by and large, about 75 or 80% of that site has previously been capped and filled with 3 feet of soil. So DEP, for the first time in the Northeast Regional Office, has allowed us to relocate those soils on site and cap them because we already had that landfill. We're just increasing the elevation of an existing condition. And that saved us probably about $1.5 million. And so that was certainly welcome. And from a schedule point, it helped us. It would be probably 6 months to truck those soils off site to a landfill out of state.
Now, Hines says work on the site for the $15 million animal shelter is resuming. However, actual construction of the building has not yet started. The animal shelter is in a temporary location behind Ayers Collision and the Kennedy Center in a city-owned building on East Squantum Street. Thomas Crane Public Library will be better able to handle some special requests like genealogy research and accessing historical records with the addition of 2 archivists to their staff. Library Director Sarah Slyman told the City Council during her budget review last week that the new positions are desperately needed to help organize and manage their vast collection of archives.
Quincy is such an essential part of our nation's history. And when I arrived, we had deeply siloed our archives and special collections services, basically with one person. And there was a turnaround time of nearly a year to get a basic genealogy or local history question answered. And that's just unacceptable. Like, that's always been unacceptable, but for today's day and age, it's just, I mean, people, you get your Amazon like later that day. You can't wait a year for someone to hand over like a street list, you know? So there was only one person available and permitted to answer local history and special collections archives questions. No services could be offered when that person was off, sick, or out on one of their 4 weeks of vacation. The special collections, additionally, are difficult to access both virtually and physically. They've been siloed into the back of the house. A lot of them have gone uncatalogued, so they're not discoverable. We want to make those hidden collections visible, including handwritten letters that we own from John Quincy Adams, Frederick Law Olmsted, and several other very important figures. We're not able to provide digital exhibits or displays, which is really considered a very basic service in this day and age for a public library. No staff capacity for docent tours of the exquisite architecture of Richardson and Coletti. No staff capacity to do outreach and programming. So when the Quincy Historical Society or our excellent city historian asked us to partner for things, we just didn't have the capacity to do it. And limited capacity to support city initiatives, including the very important upcoming Quincy 400, which we really want to have a seat at the table to help ensure that it's excellent and that we can showcase our little piece of the city to the best of its ability.
Mr. Lyman said those 2 new archivists will earn just over $53,000 per year. The city budget also includes a new crisis response specialist for the police department and a recreation supervisor. The overall city budget of $405 million is up about $33 million. Another new position in next year's Quincy City budget is Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Community Liaison. During budget discussions last week, mayoral spokesman Chris Walker said that Mayor Thomas Koch has hired the first person for that new position.
Certainly appreciate the patience of Council Liang and a number of other folks who have advocated for this position over the course of the last year. We do believe pretty firmly that patience was a virtue in this case. We think Damien is a real find. He's an immigrant to this country. He's lived in Quincy for 20 years. He's a social worker by trade. He has a lot of experience. He's active in the community. He's a member of the Rotary, and we're really thrilled to have him come on board. I know he's going to be personally reaching out to every councilor over the next few weeks to learn a little bit more and listen to what you folks hope and expect from this position.
That liaison position was recommended by a special mayoral commission chaired by Ward 3 Councilor Ian Kane after a public meeting where many residents expressed concerns about racial discrimination in Quincy. A Roxbury man facing charges for causing a 3-car crash in Quincy last week, then trying to carjack one of the vehicles. Police say 55-year-old Robert Cheeks crashed into 2 other cars at the Bergen Parkway and Granite Street extension last Tuesday night, then pulled a woman out of one of those cars and tried to drive away. Cheeks failed to steal the vehicle. He fled on foot, was arrested near the IHOP restaurant, now faces charges including carjacking and assault and battery. The woman and another driver were both hospitalized with non-life-threatening injuries. It's our check of news for you today. Coming up, we sit down with Tom Clasby, Director of Quincy Elder Services. That's next. Welcome back. Halfway through 2023 now, and I thought it was due time to have Tom Clasby come on by and give us an update on what's been happening at the Kennedy Center and what's coming up for the rest of the year. And lo and behold, here he is. Hey, Tom.
Hello, Joseph. How are you?
Doing great. Good to see you.
Great to see you.
Yeah, half the year's over, the start of a brand new month, and it's been very, very active at the Kennedy Center and beyond, has it not?
It's hard to believe half the year's over.
Yeah, I'd just like to throw that in.
Yeah, boy. Yeah.
Even though it feels like we're back to March.
I know it. We were just saying it was a short summer.
Short
there,
summer.
huh?
Hope you enjoyed it, folks. It's all over now. That's right. Fresh off the 39th annual Quincy Senior Olympics this year. Yeah, how'd it go?
And you know, when you think of the weather this week, the weather just preceding the Senior Olympics was like this, and cold and rainy. So we were, biting our nails, hoping we'd get good weather, and the gods must have been listening to us because, the weather was absolutely perfect, sunny and warm, but not too warm.
Right.
Just perfect, really. For some of the walks and runs, it was great.
Yep, the bocce, the golf, it was just fantastic.
Yeah, another great series of events. And thank QATV too for you always do such a nice job covering that. It means an awful lot to us and to the seniors. And, you do terrific programming in general, but you cover that splendidly, and it leads to us getting more seniors that want to join.
Super.
So we greatly appreciate it, which is a phenomenon with the Senior Olympics. Anytime people see it, they seem to catch the fever.
Yeah.
And we've, as you know, in years past, have had somebody just walking by, what's going on, and we've signed them up on the spot.
Is that great?
And had them participate. So, no, it's a great series of events. The community comes together. We're in different venues throughout, and you can't really say enough about the athletes. And
yeah, that's another aspect of it I think we don't talk about a lot is how you can learn about your own city through events like this, because you have the venues scattered across the city.
Yeah, Olendi's gets involved,
Yep.
and the Torre del Posse Club, and just so many community partners.
Furnace Brook Golf Course.
Absolutely, that's the second year in a row at Furnace Brook.
Right.
And,
yeah.
It's gone great. We had an interesting thing this year. I'm trying to think of what month it was. In the winter, anyway. I got a phone call from Joanne Moore, who is the COA director in Duxbury, and she said a whole bunch of our seniors would like to participate in the Senior Olympics, and we do take people from out of town.
Sure.
Would you come to Duxbury and speak about it? And so I said I'd be happy to. Went down there. We had a snowstorm that particular night. There weren't many snowstorms this winter.
No,
but
there weren't. You managed to find the one.
That one I hit, and I wouldn't really call it a storm. We had
Right.
some flurries, but it was just kind of funny. Anyway, I got down there. The place was packed. Duxbury is a beautiful center and a great director. She's been very involved with stuff on the stage. She's terrific. Had the opportunity to speak to the seniors there. Some of them have been participants. We have a lot of people that come from other communities, Weymouth, Braintree, further down the South Shore. Many of them have Quincy roots.
I see.
Not all of them,
Yeah.
but many of them do. So, and that was the case with this group. But they originally, it's interesting how they could have a concept. They were thinking, well, Olympics, Olympics, the real Olympics has different countries representing their country, so we'll be representing the Duxbury seniors.
Duxbury country.
And I kind of like, no, that's not exactly how it works. You'll be representing your age against people your own age.
Right.
Right.
Interesting. They saw it like
But
that.
yeah, and that's natural enough when you think about
Right.
it that they would. But they came in and really had a great time. Many of them were gold, silver, or bronze medalists.
Wow.
And I'm sure that they'll be back.
Yeah. Do they have a games in Duxbury? They don't do it down there? No. Okay. Interesting.
And there's very few, and I think we've talked before too. And
Yeah.
Barry Welsh has mentioned it when he was recreation director. The whole genesis of it, but it was Don Strong that used to be with Beechwood when they were at what's now the Kennedy Center.
Right.
And wanted to do a Senior Olympics. It was basically his brainchild. Barry and the recreation department put it on. It was a one-day event, and just grew further and further and further out from there to the point where it was the catalyst for the Mass Senior Games.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, he was on the board for the Mass Senior Games for a while, and an advisor for a long time after he was on the board. And many of our people today still participate in the Mass Senior Games, and there's international games for things like particular, like the police officers have an international series of games, and different careers have. So it's been really something to see.
Quincy took the lead.
Yeah, and really kudos to Michelle Hanley, the staff of the recreation department, the kids you can't say enough about.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think it. We always want to make sure that we mention it, but they really are just tremendous, and they look forward to it. They get to know the seniors. Many of them would be looking for someone. Last year they were here. Are they going to be here again?
Yeah.
So it's like a little reunion. For the kids as well, and they just do a terrific job.
Yeah.
So we at the Council on Aging supply the seniors, and they do all the work.
About how many folks participated this
We
year?
had over 200
Over 200?
participants. Yeah,
That's
well
great.
over 200.
So it's back to pre-pandemic.
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah. Everything is. In fact, the membership at the Kennedy Center, since we reopened, we've had 800 new members.
Wow.
Come on.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, every year, because of the nature of the business, there's attrition that occurs, and that's the hardest part
Of
about,
course.
really being in this.
Yeah.
But our numbers are up.
Excellent.
Some new people coming in. The baby boomers are job security. So
Well, it's good to hear,
Yeah,
because there are new people coming into the city
absolutely,
too.
absolutely. The other thing I meant to bring, South Shore Senior News, which is a local newspaper, on senior issues, is featuring on its front page George Millett. George was a former, I believe he was a major with the state police.
Okay.
Interesting guy, a real gentleman, long-time participant in the Quincy Senior Olympics, but still keeps himself in phenomenal shape. He's out. So the feature in the South Shore Senior News is him playing softball, but he plays, and one of the things that it mentions, he's been playing last year with one of his sons, who's now a senior.
Okay.
And then he just had a second son who has now reached the senior category. So
Wow.
he's got two boys, or men,
Right, yeah.
playing softball with him in a senior league, which is an interesting phenomenon for us. We've seen it
Several
over the years.
generations, yeah.
I mean, we have mothers and well, Marilyn Mashuli, who's participated for many years, had one daughter that's been participating a number of years. She has a second daughter in.
Wow.
We have father-daughters. We have father-sons.
Yep.
So it's really neat to see.
I bet, yeah, to see the generations. And you mentioned, the young people who help out for the Senior Olympics, mostly college-age kids, right?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
They are.
So
And
to see the cross-generational cooperation is fun.
Yeah, and when the senior center was first being proposed, we looked into, some places do intergenerational centers. I didn't like that idea, and I'm glad we didn't do it, because sometimes what can happen is the kids unintentionally take over.
Yep.
But what we have committed to from day one is to do some intergenerational programming.
Right.
So during school vacation weeks, we always have certain programmings. Certainly the Senior Olympics, also falls in that category. The difference is, they're being invited to the seniors' house.
Right.
It's not the other way
Exactly,
around,
yeah.
But particularly, and that happens more with younger kids, where they'll take over, and it's unintentional.
No,
it
it's just
happens,
different energy when you're that age, yeah.
But to your point, the recreation kids, a lot of them, as soon as they get out for the summer, they'll call Michelle, and I'll be out in time for the Senior Olympics.
They want to
and,
do it, yeah.
and want to do it, and they're at a different maturity level. And,
That's true, yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, and each of them, I'm sure, learns from one another, right? Different
No
things
doubt.
about life, different life skills, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
What are the Mass Senior Games, by the way? You mentioned those. When do those?
Those will be coming up in the summer. I believe it's
Oh.
in August, and I think if they just Google Mass Senior Games,
Okay.
it'll all come up. It's usually in Springfield. We have Amy Hicks, was one of our older competitors, a phenomenal swimmer. Has participated in the Mass Senior Games for many, many years, and she'll be doing it again. So I'm pretty sure it's August.
Okay.
But yeah, if they Google Mass Senior Games, they should be able to get all the information,
All the information
on
about that.
Yeah,
Okay, fun.
yeah.
I think, was Randolph that was looking into having their own as well? Did
Yeah, they
ever launch
were.
those?
They
Yeah.
were, and I don't know if that still has panned out. I should. One of the things that the pandemic did that we haven't quite recovered from yet is we used to have associations where directors met on a regular basis.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And we haven't got those back up again. We
Okay.
should, because it's kind
Things
of
like
tells
that.
us questions like that
Yeah.
that we'll talk about. But that's just an example. One of the guys that participated in our senior games a number of years back, his name was Mr. Good, if I remember correctly, and he happened to be a board member on the COA in Randolph, and wanted to institute it there. Now I know they did begin one. Whether or not they've continued it, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
But you were the model.
Yeah.
Which is kinda neat.
Yeah, which is absolutely. Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the future of the Kennedy Center,
Okay.
if we can. The mayor has a request in for $4.5 million. Wouldn't specify, just said
Yeah.
some improvements.
Yeah, I'm getting a new office, Joe.
Oh,
No,
is
I'm
that what
kidding.
that's a very nice office you're going to have there, Tom.
No. You know what happened? I'm glad you brought it up, because it's one of these. This is we won't be able to see the fruits of everything that's going to go on. Basically, the genesis of that whole thing was we were looking into the possibility of, could we expand? Is that even possible? So the first thing you really have to do is get some engineers in there and take a look at the building. Building was built in 1957. And it's, close to the marsh and salt water and, So we had engineers come in, look at the building. Building's sound.
Okay.
It's in good shape. But there is some wear and tear down there, and I'm not really. Heinze would be the person to
Okay.
speak about the specifics of it all. I'm still trying to memorize the tools at home, so if my wife needs something, I know what to get for her. So the work that's going to be done is really just to ensure that the building will be with us for,
Oh, okay.
for the next few years.
Infrastructure
and also,
improvements.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, down underneath the building. And then we'll again be able to take a look at it. Is there a way to expand? There could be. That'll be pretty far off.
Oh, that kind of pops my balloon, Tom. I was hoping it was
know.
going to be like these grand plans, because I knew you want to do a pickleball court, you want to do some stuff
Yeah,
outside,
yeah.
maybe a swimming pool.
Right.
No, they're just going
Well,
to
the funny
fix
thing,
the building.
The funny thing about it is, those rumors started as soon as people started taking a look at it, and I heard all kinds of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And swimming pool was one of them.
Yeah, yeah.
I said, "What do you mean swimming pool? You got Wollaston Beach
Wollaston
right
Beach
there.
right there, right.
You don't need a swimming pool." But yeah, it'll just be really infrastructure
Okay.
improvements.
Okay, so obviously going to stay.
This
It's
correct.
working out for you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great building.
How long has it been now?
I've often said that 2009 we
Dedicated
took
it.
over, and at that point the mayor put 1.9 million into the building,
Mm-hmm.
and then we've worked every year. I've written some grants to do. I think, when you look at, and the Mayor Koch is particularly good at this. He puts money into the municipal buildings, creating, public buildings department. And I know sometimes some people might get critical of that kind of stuff. But, just as an example, if you look at, say, the sewer treatment center from years ago, right? All these communities started to tie into that center. That treatment center.
Nut Island at the time.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then it couldn't.
It was not good. The
yeah,
result was not good.
Well,
Yeah.
really, the result was it destroyed the harbor.
Correct,
And you see that in government a lot, where they build these beautiful state-of-the-art structures, but then it's, well, who's going to pay for the maintenance? And there's no upkeep, so kind of everyone just turns a blind eye to it.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, it's $50 million to either, build a new building or to do things. So we try to do improvements on an ongoing basis to keep the building. If you come into the Kennedy Center, like the bathrooms have been redone.
I see.
In the last couple of years. We had some older doors and stuff, and that just kind of makes it look fresh.
Yep.
New carpets, those kind of things, to just kind of make it look, keep it fresh, and painting and
Yeah,
things like that.
I know the gym
So,
was revamped not
yeah,
too long ago.
yeah,
That looks really
yeah,
nice.
Yeah.
You have air conditioning.
Yes.
Which,
Yeah.
well, I mean, during a heat wave, it's crucial, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Very, very, very important.
Yeah. Is there a standby generator there in case of a power
There is.
outage?
Yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't power the whole building,
Okay.
but it does lighting and the computers and certain section of the building. So,
Sure.
we
Cafeteria,
can get into it.
the cafe there is nice. as
Yeah,
well.
and eventually, the health department, and this is really part of where we started to go. I love having them there on the one hand, because they do a lot of educational stuff for us. And when we've had situations, and we have had them where somebody takes a fall,
Yeah.
it's nice to have the nurses
Right
right
there,
there,
yep.
even before the paramedics. And I'll say this, kudos to Quincy Fire Police, because, man, they're there in a short amount
Absolutely,
of time.
yep.
So we're grateful for that. But having said that, just run down the hall and get a nurse is comforting to
Absolutely,
the
yeah.
individual, and it's comforting to me, to be to
Sure.
be truthful. But at the same time, they're occupying space that we could utilize for sure.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So they'll either find a new home, or maybe we'll do some reconfiguration in the next couple of years, so that we can free up some space. Cafe, as you mentioned, sometimes there's a waiting line to get in there.
Is there? Okay.
And I'd love to be able to have a bigger space.
Kind of
for
a good
that.
problem to have, I guess, right?
It is,
Yeah.
because the whole thing with the cafe is it's simply socialization.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that's the whole purpose for it. I just spoke with someone the other day from Housneck, lovely lady, and her name is Grace. She said, I can't tell you what this place means to me. And she mentioned you know, losing friends over the years, and particularly when you get up into the 90s, that's more and more frequent, you know. But she said, I've made so many wonderful friends since I've been here. And that was a component that I didn't, Senior Olympics is a good example of that too, because a lot of them form friendships. But that was a component that I didn't really consider. Joe, my own grandmother lived to be 99, very positive person. The one time that I can remember her being sad, I said, you know, what's the problem, Grandma? And she said, well, you know, all my contemporaries are gone.
Yes, yeah.
You can't ever replace those kind of things,
Right.
but at the same time, to make new friendships is also a great thing, and that's occurring.
That's what it's all about,
you know, yeah.
Always great to talk to you, Tom. I wish we could have more time.
No problem.
We'll have to have you come back.
It goes by quick.
It does, I know. Thanks again.
You bet.
Just enough time to check the weather for you for the rest of the day today. Actually, that'll be really easy. Just put ditto marks in front of the forecast because it's really not going to change all that much. Showers today, low 60s. A little better tomorrow. It will be warmer with showers, so there's something. And back to cool, wet weather for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday as well. But right now, the weekend forecast looks super. Thanks again to Tom Clasby for joining us today from the Quincy Elder Services.
Thank you, Joe.
You're welcome. Thanks to our crew. Thank you for watching. Speaking of Friday, here on the program, Tim Cahill, president of the Quincy Chamber of Commerce. Meantime, check out our website. It's qatv.org. All our programs are there. There's news and information, video on demand, live streaming, and a whole lot more. For all of us here at QATV, I'm Joe Catalano. Have a great week.